article I sent you about the USADA corruption?
Yes. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so basically, and this was like a WADA press release too. So it's not like it was some journalist or something. It's like on the official WADA site. And they were basically exposing how USADA was covering up test results. So
For which athletes?
unnamed. As
Which
far
sports?
As, they wouldn't say. They just said like Olympic level athletes and elite athletes and kept it very vague.
Really?
And essentially, they disclosed what they had tested positive for, and even that one of them was an Olympic caliber athlete, and their entire career they got to go until retirement without getting exposed just because they helped USADA supposedly catch other people.
Oh, they were narcs?
So like, yeah, so if you helped them catch people, then you could get away with using like full board testosterone.
No,
EP,
really?
yeah.
Oh my God! So they're like a drug dealer that works for the government.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was like one of the reasons of many why like Hunter and others are very critical of USADA and are glad they're not under it anymore.
Well, there's a lot of stupidity with their regulations. Like one of them is BPC 157, which is natural in the human body. You know, and peptides, all they're doing is helping you heal.
Yeah.
You're literally dealing with a sport where you beat the fucking shit out of each other every day in training. And you're not going to like assist these people in healing? Like, wouldn't that only benefit everybody? There's no like fear of like harm. There's like no one's dying from BPC.
It's to catch other people because you might know something that we don't or what have you, that we'll just let you, no one will know.
That's so dirty. That's so dirty. That's literally contrary to the whole reason why they exist.
Yeah.
What's really crazy is, I mean, according to the UFC, so what happened was the UFC had some disputes with them and decided to sever their relationship. And then USADA like publicly said that UFC is going to allow their competitors to do steroids now, which is not the case at all. Like they already had a contract in place with Drug Free Sport. I talked to the guy from Drug Free Sport, and he was essentially laying out the It was essentially identical. No BPC 157, no testosterone growth, nothing. Like you can't do anything.
The standards are actually much higher now, too, in contrast. Like USADA would claim, or at least suggest, that they were doing full spectrum bulletproof testing, but it turned out they were almost never EPO testing. The HGH testing was never really done, and then also the isoform, the isotope ratio mass spec was not really being done either.
Was that a budget thing? Like it was too expensive to do
Yeah,
those
it's,
tests?
I believe so, and also time intensive for some of these tests as well. And I guess for like the number of tests they were conducting, perhaps it was too extensive, or I don't really know what the exact motivation was. Like often you would think it comes down to budget and time, but also if you have an expert who just thinks it's not warranted to go further, like the same way if you went to a doctor and you'd be like, should I test this? They'll be like, oh, if we know this, like who cares? It's not necessary. Like I don't necessarily know they went to the depth and rigor to claim somebody did or didn't cheat if I have, preliminary data that you would exclude having to go further. Sometimes you don't have to, test further if there's not an atypical finding. So
yeah, but like if they're not testing for EPO, for example, and maybe there's an event in Mexico City, right, which is 7,700 feet above sea level. That place is brutal. That's where Cain Velasquez, who was known as like probably the greatest cardio heavyweight of all time, he fought Fabricio Verdum, and he did not prepare properly. Fabricio actually moved to the mountains above Mexico City and trained there for like 4 months. So Fabricio, who speaks fluent Spanish, lived in Mexico. He was really got ready, and he beat Cain Velasquez in that night to become the champion. And he had tremendous cardio, and Cain was just dying. That's how brutal Mexico City is. So imagine when you're competing at that altitude, or maybe Colorado Springs, or one of these like really high altitude places, which we have events, Salt Lake City, and you don't test for EPO.
Yeah, no,
that's
insane.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because that's the place where you would do it, particularly if like you're defending your title or you're challenging for a title.
Yeah, and it's like some of this stuff, even if you're looking for it, is quite difficult to detect anyway. It's like microdosing EPO is still, they're trying to refine the parameters and determine with greater scrutiny how to detect it.
How long is the life it's detectable inside your body?
I believe it's like a few days, and that's if you're using that's not a microdose protocol either.
Well, how much of a benefit do you get from microdosing?
Fairly significant, given you can even just retaining your baseline parameters if you're weight cutting can be quite helpful. So it's almost like offsetting, for example, the suppression of hormones or the suppression of any sort of parameter that would decrease with heavy nutrient deprivation. If you can sustain it at normal, is performance enhancing in contrast to your competitors who are also weight cutting and might not have the same advantages.
Well, that's why TJ Dillashaw did it when he got popped. And but he looked like a skeleton. Did you ever see those weight cut?
Yeah, that was insane. I might be misspeaking on the detection time of EPO, by the way, but it's at minimum the microdose protocols that are being implemented still. Even most recent literature, you find upwards of 50% of the studied participants where they're actually looking for it still pass their testing.